Well, my first reaction is wow. Really, wow. And you know why? Because I've given talks at many different places. This is the first time that before my talk, I was given a talk by Laura at the culture tour, also by Charlie in the office. And I'm just inspired. I'm really inspired. I've never seen anything like this, that a company can inspire me before my talk. And you know why? At the culture tour, Laura spent about maybe less than a minute talking about what you guys do, and spend the rest of the time talking about who you are. Because it's who you are that make you do what you do. And it's my story as well. So before I start, I'll tell you a little bit about who I am. There are two versions of me. By the way, can I get it? There's a clicker. There are two versions of me. The first version, by the way, I grew up in Beijing, China, and in a very loving, protective family, and my parents gave me everything I wanted. And but when I was 6, something happened. So this was my first holiday in elementary school, and my teacher had a brilliant idea, brilliant in quote. She thought, why not combine gift giving for holidays and for the students to learn the virtue of complimenting each other. So she had all of us in the class, there was like 40 of us, come to the front, and she bought us gifts, like these books, set them on the side. And she said, why don't we just compliment each other, all right? Say something nice about another student. And the person who hears his or her name being called and the compliment given, go pick up a gift and sit down. What a great idea, right? What could go wrong? Well, it started with 40 of us at the front, and every time when I heard someone's name is called and compliments given, I would give the heartiest cheer. I was happy for them. And then there were 20 of us left, 10 of us left, 5 of us left, and 3 of us left. And the compliments stopped, and I was one of them. Well, at that moment, I didn't want to hear my compliments anymore. I didn't want the gifts anymore. I just want to sit down. I was crying. And I didn't know why people wouldn't say anything nice about me. I thought I was well-liked. I thought I was a good kid. I was helpful. But when I look at who was standing beside me, I knew otherwise, because I did not like those 2 kids. And the teacher was freaking out. And she was like, hey, anyone will say anything nice about these people? Anyone? No? Okay, why don't you go pick up your gift and sit down, so next year you would behave better, someone will say something nice about you. Well, as I'm describing this to you, you probably know I remember this vividly. But also, I don't know who felt worse that day. Is that me or the teacher? Because she must have realized that she turned a team building exercise into a public roast for 3 6-year-olds. And it wasn't funny either. You know, when Justin Bieber was roasted, it was funny. There's nothing funny about that day. That was one version of me who was rejected in public the first time. Fast forward 8 years. When I was 14, I met this guy who came to Beijing to speak. Bill Gates. Let's hope I'm not blocking the picture. By the way, I have no idea why this is black and white, the picture. It's like, 20 years ago. It wasn't like in World War II, General Patton or something. It must have a color picture. But anyway, he came to Beijing to speak, and I heard his talk. And I was inspired. I didn't understand too much what he was talking about. He was promoting Windows 95. But I was so inspired by the story of him using technology to change the world. I love his entrepreneurial story. And I said, I want to be just like him. I knew what I want to do in my life now. I said, that night I wrote a letter to my family telling them by age 25, I would build the biggest company in the world. And that company will buy Microsoft. And I also enjoyed his idea of domination. And I didn't make this up. I wrote this letter. Here's the letter. It's not good writing. It's in Chinese. But I highlighted some keywords to you so you understand. So this is another version of me when I was 14. This version of me wanted to change the world. Then fast forward 2 more years. And when I was 16, I was given a chance to come to the United States as a culture exchange student. and I jumped on this opportunity. So I lived with an American family for a year, then I went to college afterward. And I thought, great, I'm gonna go to where Bill Gates lives, and I'm gonna be just like him. I'm gonna be the next great entrepreneur, immigrant entrepreneur, just like Andrew Carnegie and things like that. So that was the start of my entrepreneur journey. But something happened. Fast forward another 14 years, I was 30. And this time, I did not become an entrepreneur. I was working in a corporate, and I felt my career was stagnant. Why was that? Where was that 14-year-old who wanted to change the world? It turned out every time I wanted to do something amazing, every time I have a new idea, every time I wanted to speak up at work, every time I want to make a new proposal, it was almost that constant battle between the 6-year-old and the 14-year-old. And every time, that 6-year-old won. This 14-year-old wanted to change the world, make a real impact. But the 6-year-old was afraid of rejection. He did not want to be laughed at. He did not want to be humiliated in front of people again. And every time, that 6-year-old won. And I just felt, wow, maybe I missed my boat to make a real impact. So when I was 30, I actually quit my job because when you want to be Bill Gates, you got to do it sooner or later, right? So that's when my wife was pregnant, and she saw that I wasn't happy doing what I was doing, and I was stagnant, and she encouraged me to go after my dream, to give this a try, do this for 6 months, and see what happens with your company building. So I quit my job. And so so I started building my company. I became an entrepreneur. And this is I really enjoyed the time because it was exciting. And I couldn't hide in a team anymore. When I was, when you were working in a team, sometimes you feel like you can hide. You feel like you're not making a real impact. But when you're owning your own company, no more. That's everything you do have major impact. So when I did that, and I felt excited but also scared. And 4 months into my venture, I was presented with a major investment opportunity, and I thought I was going to get it. I thought this is the answer to my prayer to God, and how can I not get this? And I'm gonna the money infusion, the precious, the mentorship, the fame from and everything will come. And that's going to take my company to the next step. I wanted the investment so bad, I even dreamed about it five different times. Each time I can still remember the feeling of calling my wife, calling my parents, telling them, hey, my company got the investment. But then I woke up. There was a dream, there was reality, and I woke up every time. Too bad. But and one day there's reality. I was at a restaurant celebrating a friend's birthday. And there was happiness all around me, and people were chattering, singing happy birthday songs. And my phone vibrated, and I put it out. I saw this very simple message from the investor. It was almost a one-liner email saying, no, we're not going to do this. And it felt incredibly impersonal and personal at the same time, if that's possible. I had to just get up and walk out so people wouldn't see me cry in front of them. I was so hurt. I didn't know why I was hurt this bad. I guess when you want something so bad, when you are rejected, you felt so bad. And I felt at that moment it was that 6-year-old whispering in my ear again. Who do you think you are, quitting your job, owning your company? Building a company are for the geniuses like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. You're just a wannabe, and you're looking like a fool in front of your friends and former colleagues, and you're going to look like a fool in front of your in-laws. And they're already. By the way, they weren't happy with the decision of me building my company. But all the insecurities, all the time, all these memories just rushing back to me. And I kind of wanted to quit. And so I talked to my wife, and I said, hey, maybe this is the time I quit this venture. I look for a job again. Maybe I save a couple months This is so maybe God is telling me that, hey, save some time and make an income again. This is the answer to your prayer. And my wife wasn't happy. So she was like this quarterback screaming into the offensive lineman's face mask after he gave up a sack. It was like, hey, we said you're going to do this for 6 months. It wasn't 4. You still got 2 more months left. And keep going. And don't leave any regret. But I want to. I mean, I wanted to keep going. But every time I felt, this is like my life. Every time I wanted to fight something, I want to go forward, that 6-year-old was telling me not to do it. The 6-year-old was making me afraid. How do I overcome that fear of rejection? So this is not about all about what I do anymore. It's actually about who I am. I have to change who I am. I have to fight that fear. So how did I do it? I searched online. Google is my friend. And I searched, how do I overcome the fear of rejection? I came up with a bunch of articles, some psychology articles telling me about fear and pain, and some articles from rah-rah gurus telling me about, hey, don't take it personally, just move forward. I mean, I already knew that. Who doesn't know not take personally with rejection, right? But if it's that simple, I would not be this afraid. So I kept searching, and I found this website. It's called RejectionTherapy.com. How many of you have heard of rejection therapy? No one. One, just good. I'll tell you all about it. It's a game invented by this Canadian entrepreneur. His name is Jason Comley. And the game is about for you to look for rejection on purpose. And you do this for 30 days. And it will give you suggestion cards, and you would ask for some ridiculous stuff, and you get rejected. And the goal is to desensitize yourself from the pain of rejection. I just love the idea. I thought, wow, I want to do this. I'm an entrepreneur. I want to have actions. I don't want to just have a theory. I want to do stuff. So I'm going to do this. And not only I will do it for 100 days. Forget about 30 days. Let's do this for 100 days. And I will film myself doing it using my iPhone. And I will blog about it. I will make a video blog on YouTube. And so I would tell the world about my 100 days of rejection, so the people would hold me accountable. Otherwise, I would just quit. So that's what I did. And here's what it looked like. This is my original blog. So on day 1, rejection 1, borrow $100 from a stranger. All right, this is where I went to my office building and went downstairs and for the first floor, and there's the big guy who was sitting there. And he was like, I think he looked like a security guard. I think he was. So I approached him, and I said, I was just sweating, by the way. I could feel the hair at the back of my neck was, standing up. And I was approaching him and said, sir, can I borrow $100 from you? And he raised up his head, and he looked at me. I was like, no. Why? I said, no, oh, sorry. I just started running. I got myself out of there as quickly as I could. And my heart was pounding, and I was sweating. I felt I was the worst person in the world. And I was saying, I hope my father didn't see this, because that was so shameful. But that night, I was uploading the video, I could watch myself. I could watch what happened. So I analyzed, and I thought, wait a minute. This guy wasn't that menacing. He's a chubby-looking guy. He's like kind of lovable too. And he asked me why. He said no, but he asked me why. In fact, he was extending the conversation to me. But I didn't say anything back. I could explain to myself, hey, I'm trying to overcome my fear. I'm trying to ask for something crazy. And I didn't negotiate. I could say, if you give me $100, I give you 105 back with 5% return. And I could say, I work upstairs, and here's my driver's license, and if you trust me, I'll give it back. I didn't do any of those. I just ran because I was so scared. And I saw how scared I was. I was like the kid in the movie Sixth Sense. I saw dead people. I was that scared. And I said, you know what? This is like a microcosm of my life. Every time I would hear the slightest rejection, I would just run. I would not do anything. So I said to myself, no matter what happened the next day, I would not run. I would stay engaged. I would talk, and I would see what happens. And so day 2, I request a burger refill. So this is what happened. I went to a burger joint, and after eating the cheeseburger, I went to the cashier and I said, hey, can I get a burger refill? And he was like, what's a burger refill? They're like, well, just like a drink refill, you do that for free, but with a burger. And he was like, no, we don't do burger refill, man. And I said, well, if, I love your burger, it's great, but I would love you guys a lot more. I will come here every day if you do burger refill. And he was like, well, I'll tell my manager about it. That's good feedback. So I said, okay, please do. So I turned away and left. And I don't think they adopted the policy, by the way, because the store is still there. But you know what? The life and death feeling was gone, mostly. Just because I stayed engaged, just because I didn't run. I'm like, great, I'm already learning. On 2 days, I already knew how not to run away, and I felt better. But then something happened. People started to say yes to me. I didn't expect that. So for example, one day I went to a stranger's house, and then it probably can't be done in New York because everyone lives in apartments, but I was in Austin at the time, so I went to someone's house and knocked on the door. I held a soccer ball in my hand, I had a cleats and the shin guards all decked out, and I said, sir, can I play soccer in your backyard? And he was this big guy, and he had this giant Texas flag on his shirt. I was like, soccer in my backyard? Then he saw my cleats and was like, I guess so. Come on in. I was just all confused. I'm like, I don't know who was more confused, is it me or him? So I went in and I was like, okay, can you take a picture of me? Sure. So I bounced the ball off my feet and then I left. Before I leaving, I asked him, why would you say yes? And he was like, oh, this is so off the wall. How can I say no? And then there was one day I saw a police officer. I flagged him down and I pulled the police officer over. That's for revenge. I said, officer, can I drive your car? And I'm not gonna drive it away. Can I pretend to do it? And let me sit in the driver's seat. You take a picture of me. And he saw well, okay, you look harmless. Sure. And let me do it. And there's one day I said, what could be the thing that there's impossible someone would say yes to me? Impossible. How about flying a plane? By the way, I have no training and no knowledge and no courage to fly a plane. So I went to an airfield in Austin, and I saw this pilot-looking guy, and I said, sir, can I fly your plane? And he was like, oh yeah. I'm like, why? It turned out he owned what's called a gyroplane. It's like a kind of a specialized little plane. It's a miniature helicopter, or maybe like a motorcycle in air type of thing. And he was an enthusiast. He couldn't wait to show people about his gyroplane. And I'm like, wow, there are really incentives for people to say yes to me. I didn't realize. And then there's one day this happened, and this changed my life. Can you fire up the video? I want to use the full 5-minute version of the video, so to do it justice. Okay. Yeah, by the way, I didn't make this up. Here's what happened. It really did happen. Okay, I'll use this one then. I'm driving toward Krispy Kreme. I'm gonna ask them to make me some specialized donuts.
Krispy Kreme is a donut shop.
See what happens.
What kind of specialized donuts are we talking about?
I like to have you link the 5 donuts together, make them look like Olympic symbols.
And when are you looking to these?
Huh?
Can you turn this up a little
The next 15 minutes?
Let me see what I can do.
Okay.
Try, but what do you think?
Wow. That is really good. That is really good. Yeah. All right, so do I pay there?
Don't even worry about that one's on me.
Are you serious?
Ditto. Ditto.
You serious?
Very. Extremely.
Wow.
Extremely.
Today. All right. Thank you.
Very
All
welcome.
right. See you. Give me a hug. Okay.
Enjoy.
All right. Thank you. See you.
You're welcome.
So this is the Olympic donuts. And by the way, I couldn't believe the kindness and the customer service that was shown in that video. By the way, that was only a shortened version. The full version of the video was 5 minutes long, and it got viewed over 5 million times on YouTube. And just like me, people couldn't believe it. By the way, at the time, it was on the front page of Yahoo. We're on different, bunch of talk shows, and this is an amazing story. But because of that, people started writing me emails and sharing their life story with me. And so for example, there's this artist in Austin. Her art is beautiful and profound. It's about the fallen soldier. It's amazing. But she kept it to herself. She never shared it with anyone. And she's like, I don't want, my art is my thing. I don't want to share it with people. And so then she saw this video, and she saw the Olympic donuts. And she's like, well, those donuts are nice, but I'm a real artist. All right, if you can share the donut and make it viral, why shouldn't I tell people about my artwork? And she did. So she called local media. She got picked up by national media. She was invited to give a show in Washington, D.C. It was amazing. And then there was this guy, and he was so interested in what I was doing. He was like, can I go on a trip with you to get rejected? You show me how it's done. And I said, sure. And we went to the bank, and he's like, you know what, I got a plan. And in my mind, I was hoping that plan shouldn't involve a gun at all. But he went in, he asked the cashier, can I borrow like $100 bill? I can play some paper airplane fight with you. And the cashier was like, sure. I got nothing to do, let's go. And I joined in, and I was the best among all of them. But then that experience told him one thing. He was like, I never expected to get a yes, and people would say yes to me like this. And he's got a dream that he wants to do in his career. He's a salesperson, and he's like, he's been doing what he's doing for a long time, and he was good at it. He was like, what if I ask for something that I always wanted, but I don't think I qualify for? What if I ask for my dream job in the company? And he did, and he got that job. Not only he got a job, now he is a Fortune 500 company. Now he mans the UK Entrepreneur Center for that company. Just all because he really tried, even though he didn't think he was qualified. It's this type of stories that people were sending me on a constant basis that got me thinking. I used to think I was the only one who was afraid of rejection, or maybe me and a few other people. But it turned out everyone was afraid of rejection. Sometimes the people were successful, some people are well known and they're speakers, but they're so afraid of being said no. So this gave me a chance to see rejection face to face. Oh, by the way, I have 100 of these videos. If you go on YouTube, you can find them. They're mostly quite funny. It gave me a chance to see rejection face to face. What is rejection? What is this monster that we're all afraid of? And I started doing research. I started experimenting. I started reading books and use the knowledge to use it in my 100 days of rejection as my playground. And I want to validate, I want to learn. And it turned out rejection is more or less a numbers game. I found there's no universally accepted good idea, and there's no universally rejected bad idea. Sometimes I ask the most outrageous request, I will get accepted. And sometimes I ask for some pretty mild, borderline okay request and get rejected. But every rejection has a number. If you go through enough numbers, if you want to get a yes, just talk to enough people. Someone will say yes to you, no matter how ridiculous it is. And for example, the Harry Potter, how many of you are Harry Potter fans? Raise your hand. Good. I like the crowd already. I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, and Harry Potter is actually the best-selling modern book in modern history. It blows every other book out of water. I'm not talking about ancient history. I'm not talking about the Bible or the Quran or something. But in modern history, nothing beats Harry Potter. You would think a book that popular and that good when it first came out, people would just totally embrace it, right? No. The author, J.K. Rowling, she had to go through 12 different rejections to get her book published. It's on the 12th publisher, she still got rejected. But the chairman of the publisher, he handed the manuscript to his granddaughter, who could not put it down. And she refused to eat, she refused to sleep, she just had to keep reading. And then the light bulb went off, and he was like, oh, maybe there's something here. Let's publish it. And the rest is history. And think about it, if Harry Potter J.K. Rowling has to go through 12 rejections, how many rejections do we have to go through to get the idea off the ground? And rejection is just an opinion. By the way, I think we need many things in this world. We need more water, definitely in California. We need more sympathy, love, understanding, definitely more free drinks and bathrooms for sure. But one thing we have plenty of is opinion. Everyone has something to say about something. If you turn on the TV, get on the internet, you will see everyone wants to tell you what they think. And opinion is probably the cheapest resource on earth, and it's completely renewable. But rejection is nothing more than the opinion and preferences of someone else. It actually says more about the rejecter than the rejected. It could be about the education, the upbringing, the background, the prejudice of the person, or maybe the mood of the day for that rejecter. Maybe something happened last night to him or her last night. You have no control over that, and you have that opinion to you. But somehow we take rejection so personally. It's as if there's something universal truth about who we are. It's almost like universal indictment. That's how we feel. But it's not. It's just that person's opinion. And lastly, rejection can be a tool. This is the picture of a dumbbell. By the way, sorry, I couldn't find a better picture. But I often make this analogy. Rejection is like a weight. And if you don't know how to handle the weight, if you just let it drop and start running, you can hurt yourself. You can drop on your feet. But if you know how to handle rejection, you can put it down safely. Or if you can use rejection, you can use it as a dumbbell to exercise yourselves. Often people have this idea about the charisma, our confidence is somehow innate. Some people are born with it, some people aren't. It's actually not true. I changed myself in these 100 days. Every day I ask for something strange, I put myself outside my comfort zone, and gradually my comfort zone expanded. It's almost as if I was exercising a muscle. And by the end I became I felt invincible. I could ask anything from anyone, anywhere. I know how to ask it. And it was amazing. I never believed in some sort of self-transformation or self-help stuff. I just felt it's so soft and so fake. But I went through a period of myself and I changed myself. And I'm a completely different person now in terms of my ability to ask for stuff. By the way, right now we built something called Rejection Gym. It's basically we ask people to get rejected every day for 100 days, and people started doing things and ask for things they would never thought it was possible, and it was really amazing. So it's not just me. But lastly, rejection is a source of knowledge. This is my book. I wrote this book because I learned so much in this 100 days about life, about career, about human interactions, about negotiation and business. I went to pretty good business school, and I thought I learned a lot about business. But after 2 years, I got a lot of debt, and I learned a lot about PowerPoint and spreadsheet. I'm not saying it was not good, but I felt I learned more in terms of real business in this 100 days than I learned in those 2 years, just because I put myself out there getting rejected. And in this learning, I learned that, hey, for example, there are certain things you can do to maximize your chance to get a yes. For example, I used to think that if I hide my weakness in my argument, when I was looking for a job, when I was making a proposal, if I hide the weakness, they would just go away, and I would get a higher chance to get a yes. But that's not true, because people have doubt, and the doubt will always be at the back of their mind. So if you just say all the good things, sometimes people doubt you, and they will never bring it up. They will just reject you. But I learned that if I mention my doubt, if I make it say the weakness of my argument at the beginning, I can actually maximize my chance. So for example, one day I went to a Starbucks. I asked the manager, hey, can I be your greeter? Be a Walmart greeter? Be a Starbucks greeter? And I was like, what's a Starbucks greeter? I'm like, I'll just be a Walmart greeter, but at Starbucks. How many of you have known Walmart greeters? This is usually like an older guy, and he was there saying hi to you, but just trying to make sure you don't steal stuff. I'm like, I want to give a Walmart experience at Starbucks. I'm not sure that's a good thing, by the way. But I asked the manager, and the manager was like, oh, not sure about this. I can almost feel that his head is turning. He was trying to size me up. So I said, is that really weird? He said, yeah, it's really weird, man. And I could feel his demeanor changed. It almost as if he was putting down his doubt on the floor after he said that. And he said, yeah, it's pretty weird, but you know what? As long as it doesn't get too weird, I'll let you do it. And make sure you don't sell anything to my customers, because we got people who are trying to sell stuff. And I'm like, no, I just want to bring them holiday cheers. I want to tell them, say hi. I want to tell them about Starbucks coffee. And so I did. For an hour, I was a Starbucks greeter. I said hi and I greeted every single customer. By the way, I don't know what your career trajectory is. Don't be a greeter. It's just a dead-end job. It was boring as heck. But I did it. He was able to say yes to me, mostly because I mentioned, is this weird? I brought up this weirdness up front. Almost as if I gained his trust. I could empathize with him. And I made him know that I wasn't crazy. I'm just like you. I know this is weird. I'm not trying to hide it. I'm not crazy. And again in my 100 days, I learned I could, if I mentioned the weakness, people would think I was trustworthy. So I always did. And then there's another thing I learned is, by the way, I learned a bunch of things, but I'll just make some examples. I will have time constraint. Another thing I learned is you can turn a no into a yes if you don't run away. And if you ask a magic word, why? Most of us would just, when we hear no, we're just like, okay, sure, we just leave, right? Because the word no is the most painful word in the English vocabulary. And we want to get it out of our system as soon as possible, almost as if we're trying to rip off a Band-Aid instead of slowly peeling it off, right? We just want to get over with rejection. But I learned that if you stay engaged and ask why, you can learn the underlying reason of that rejection. Sometimes people are not rejecting you, they're not rejecting your request. There's a reason there. If you can just attack that reason, you can help him to overcome that reason, maybe the no can turn into a yes. So for example, one day I knocked on a stranger's door, and I had a flower in my hand. I said, can I plant this flower in your backyard? I don't know why I love people's backyard so much. It was like my playground. And it was this guy, an older gentleman. He was like, no. But before he was about to turn away, I said, may I know why? He said, well, it's not like I don't like the flower, okay? But I have a dog. A dog would dig up anything I put in the backyard. So I don't want to waste your flower. If you want, go talk to Connie. Connie is my neighbor. She's across the street, and she loves flowers. And so that's what I did. I went across the street and knocked on Connie's door. Her husband was also there, and I said, hey, can I do this? And she was so happy. I was like, yeah, sure, come on in. And half an hour later, I have a flower in Connie's backyard. And this only happened because I asked why. And it turned out if I didn't ask, I would assume, okay, I was crazy. Who's going to say yes to that? Or maybe I didn't look trustworthy, or he was suspecting something, or he thought I was trying to sell something, or no, it wasn't because of any of those reasons. It was because what I offered did not fit his needs. And he trusted me enough to give me a referral, using a sales term, and I converted that referral. So I learned that always ask why after every rejection. And then I even learned how to give rejection. I went to 100 different places. I got rejected a lot. I learned some rejections made me feel good, made me feel not too good. But a lot of rejections actually made me feel pretty good. I walk away not feeling like I hated that person. But sometimes I felt even a fan of that person, even though I was told a no. How? For example, there's some of the things they did, I started tabulating, and it turned out if you give people an alternative to what you're asking after the rejection, it actually makes them feel pretty good. You're helping them. One day I went to a Costco. I love Costco, by the way. I went and asked the manager, hey, can I use your store intercom to talk to your customers? And he was like, no, sorry, I can't do that. And I was like, well, I will say nice things. You know, I'm really a fan of Costco. I want to say nice things about your store. I want to tell customers how much I like it. And actually, here is my here's a membership card. You can see I spent thousands of dollars here. So I love your store. And he was like, oh, I can't let you do this because it's our policy. And how about if you want to praise our store? How about you can? We have this magazine called Costco Connection. You can submit your story to the magazine. They're going to publish your story, and that'll be great for us. We'd love to for you to tell nice things about our store. I said, I think that's a great idea, but I really want to talk. And then he was like, are you hungry? I'm like, what? Where's that coming from? It's like, here. Sorry, I can't do this for you. But if you're hungry, let me buy you dinner. He bought me dinner. I mean, he bought me pizza and hot dog. I mean, how can you not like the person in Costco after you get a stomach full of hot dogs? And so I left being an even bigger fan of Costco, and I bought thousands of more of dollars of merchandise from Costco. But I learned that he not only provided me with an alternative to what I was asking, but he also made a concession. He gave me something, and that made me feel great. And over again, I feel some rejections that are so good, they make me a fan of the person who rejected me, if that's possible. So I learned all these things just because I put myself out there and talking to real people. But if I want to just leave you one thing you want to remember, are just two words: just ask. Just ask. I told you about I flew a plane, right? I flew someone's plane. You know, when I think about flying, I think about going to the airport a couple hours earlier, you know, getting in line and walking through the security check, make sure take off my belt, shoes off, make sure my pants don't drop in the meantime, make sure I walk through that cancer-inducing bone scanner, and I would afterward get in line and sitting on dirty carpet charging my iPhone. That's my thought about flying. But you know what? That day, I was the best flying experience of my life. I flew like a bird. And for 1 minute, I was a couple feet above the cornfield, almost touching it. I felt I was like a seagull looking for fish over ocean. And the next minute, I was like 1,000 feet in the air. There was a cloud. I was kissing it. I felt I was the eagle. And it was just so amazing. But all the time, I just constantly asking myself one question. What if I haven't asked? What if I had asked to fly someone's plane? I would not have this amazing experience. And what if in real life we don't ask for things? Companies might not be built, and art might not be shared, careers might not be advanced, and business opportunities might be lost. So no matter what you do, you have to ask. And the reason we don't ask, the reason we're so afraid of rejection is because we think rejection is so painful, so negative, and we all have some sort of memory of the version of 6-year-old getting rejected by people. And those thoughts are so negative. Somehow, by avoiding asking, by avoiding rejection, it's as if we're avoiding negative, so we're net positive, right? This is actually a lie. It's a lie that we tell ourselves every day, so we will stay comfortable, and so we will not feel bad. But think about this. If you're not going out there getting rejected, you're rejecting yourself.
Sorry to interrupt. This is Boston, but the sound went out.
Hello?
That worked.
It's good. If you give a guy like me with a microphone, I'll just start singing. Start doing karaoke. But no matter what you do, get rejected by the world. Don't get rejected by yourself, and don't get ignored by the world. So, about me, what I do next? Remember that. Remember that 14-year-old, the person who wants to change the world, that kid, that guy's back. That guy's back. I want to change the world. Again, I don't want to buy Microsoft anymore. I don't want to dominate the world anymore. I want to make the world a better place. And I want to do it through helping other people overcome the fear of rejection. And this is I'm still entrepreneur. This is my new entrepreneur journey now. I'm inviting all of you to join me in that journey. So if you have stories of you overcoming you are holding back by the fear of rejection, if you have a rejection story, share with me. Or if you want, you can share my message with other people. If you know someone, your loved ones or friends who's afraid of rejection, share my story with them. It's going to help. And if it doesn't help, just buy them a box of donuts. That will always help. Okay, thank you. Thank you for hearing my story.